I didn't react. Not at first. I just stared at the ladle in my sister's hand, the metal still warm from the stove, the sting on the back of my head pulsing like a second heartbeat. Who cuts onions like that, you useless thing? Lindsay barked, her voice slicing through the kitchen louder than the TV blaring in the living room. Dad didn't even flinch, just grabbed the remote and cranked the volume on some NFL pregame show like I was background noise in his own damn crib. My name is Luna Hanford. I'm 31, and if you think you know how this ends, buckle up, 'cause it's about to get real. When did they decide I was a family punching bag? As I studied the knife again, chopping onions with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, one question looped in my head on repeat. What does a daughter gotta do to be treated like a human being in her own parents' house? The kitchen smelled like garlic butter and rosemary, thick and homey, but it felt like a prison. I was making lunch for everybody, not 'cause they asked nice, but yeah, 'cause they expected it. No please, no thank you. Tss. Just straight up orders. Mom's favorite vanilla pillar candle flickered on the counter, the same one I light every time something inside me is about to snap. That candle's my motif, yo. My reminder that fire can warm a room or burn the whole damn place down. Lindsay leaned against the counter like she owned the joint, smirking like the queen bee she always thought she was. Honestly, Dad, she said, popping her gum. I don't know why she even tries. She was always slow. Dad snorted through his nose. Not loud, but enough. Enough to grind another layer of humiliation into my bones. I swallowed the burn rising in my throat. Fine. If they wanted a joke, if they wanted a weak link, if they wanted somebody to dump every chore on like a live-in maid, they were about to get a whole ass show. The doorbell rang, loud and sharp, cutting through the kitchen like a warning shot. Lindsay's smirk faltered for half a second. Who the hell? She started, but 5 minutes later there was a massive crash from the kitchen that echoed through the whole house. Dad's recliner screeched against the hardwood as he bolted up for once, his slippers sliding on the tile when he burst through the doorway. He stopped dead, jaw slack, staring at the floor. The knife block was smashed. Every single blade scattered across the tiles, not thrown wild, but deliberately pulled out, lined up on the counter, then dropped one by one. Lindsay's face drained of color faster than a Snapchat filter. She knew exactly what that meant. I wasn't playing weak anymore. Dad's eyes finally landed on the counter, on what he'd never bothered to see before. My laptop was open, screen glowing. Next to it, a single black binder, flipped to a spreadsheet I'd been building for 7 years. Bank statements, screenshots, proof of every transfer I'd made to keep this household afloat. My rent payments that covered their mortgage when Dad's side hustle tanked. My grocery runs that fed their Super Bowl parties and Lindsay's influencer brunches. My medical bills for Mom's chemo before she passed last spring. $312,400 total, every red cent. Dad's voice cracked like a teenager. Where did you get all this? I didn't raise my voice, didn't scream, didn't even tremble. I'm done being your unpaid maid, I said, flat and even. I'm done hiding in my own parents' kitchen. I'm done cooking for people who treat me like trash. Lindsay opened her mouth, then snapped it shut because the next part was what really terrified them. A small red envelope sat next to the binder, sealed with a notary stamp shining through the window like a neon sign. I tapped it once with my finger. The house, I said, is officially no longer in Dad's or Mom's name. Dad stumbled back a step, his face going ghost white. Lindsay grabbed the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. That vanilla candle burned steady on the stove. Fire warning, not warming, 'cause I wasn't done. The look in Dad's eyes told me everything. For the first time in 31 years, they realized I wasn't bluffing. Not today. Lindsay finally found her voice, that fake sweet tone she pulled out whenever she got caught red-handed. Why are you being so dramatic? We're family. We always help each other. I laughed, quiet and low. It's 'cause that was the exact line she used when she needed cash for her brand collabs, but never when I needed a ride to the ER at 2 a.m. Dad tried to regain control, puffing his chest like he still had any. You have zero right to change property documents without consulting us. I held up one hand, calm as hell. Actually, I had every right, because the house was in Mom and Dad's name jointly when Mom filed the transfer intent last year. Remember the spring form she signed before her final hospital stay? I processed it legally before she passed. And Dad blinked, slow, like his brain was buffering. Lindsay whispered, "You liar." I turned the laptop toward them. Email timeline, county clerk receipts, digital stamps, Mom's signature, video confirmation, date, time. "No," I said. "You just assumed I was too stupid to do anything real with my life." Lindsay stumbled back until her hip hit the counter. "Dad, do something," she hissed, but he couldn't, 'cause he finally understood. He wasn't in the legal position anymore, and one more thing, I said, sliding a second envelope toward them. This one white. Dad didn't touch it at first, then with shaking fingers, he opened it. Eviction notice. 5 days. He looked up at me, expression broken. "Where will we go?" I felt nothing. Not rage, not revenge, just clarity. "Where did I go when you ignored me? When you mocked me? When you hit mute on your remote instead of telling your daughter to stop hitting me?" Silence thick enough to taste. "I'm not throwing you out," I said quietly. "I'm giving you what you taught me." Dad swallowed. "What's that?" I met his eyes. "You're on your own." They stood there in my beauty kitchen like collapsed statues. Not proud, not powerful, just exposed. Lindsay tried again, voice cracking. "You can't do this! You're my sister!" There it was. The word she only used when she needed something. I walked to the sink, turned off the faucet, and dried my hands slowly with a towel. The smallest sound suddenly felt enormous. The hum of the fridge, the slow ticking of the wall clock, my father's shaky breathing. "You know what's crazy?" I said quietly. "All these years, it never mattered what I did for this family. You never noticed until you needed something." Dad stepped forward. "We raised you. We fed you." "No," I corrected. "Mom raised me." "You watched TV." He flinched like I slapped him. Lindsay grabbed the counter for support. "Just give us time. We'll figure something out." I stared at her. "You had years to figure something out." She looked terrified now because she could see this wasn't a performance. This wasn't a bluff. This wasn't the quiet little girl they used to bully and humiliate. I picked up my keys. "I'm leaving for a few hours. Don't touch anything. Don't pack anything. Don't break anything. The sheriff will stop by." "He'll explain your rights." Lindsay choked out. "You wouldn't make us homeless." But she already knew this wasn't punishment. It was justice. Adult consequences for adult entitlement. I stepped toward the door. Dad whispered behind me, the smallest voice I'd ever heard from him. "Where are you going?" I paused, hand on the doorknob. "To live my life," I said softly. "Something you've never allowed me to do in this house?" Then I walked out and didn't look back. When I returned at dusk, a sheriff cruiser was already parked outside. Lights off, engine running, quiet authority. Lindsay and Dad were sitting on the front step like scolded kids. Lindsay's mascara had bled down into her neckline. Dad stared at cracks in the pavement like they were some portal he could fall through. Deputy Carson nodded when he saw me walking up the path. "Ms. Hanford, your instructions were followed. They understand the temporary order and access limits." Dad jumped up immediately. "This is humiliating. You called law enforcement on your own family." I didn't blink. "They broke the law." I didn't. Lindsay's eyes darted nervously. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." "That's the problem," I replied. "You never thought I could." Deputy Carson cleared his throat. "They're allowed to retrieve personal clothing and medication, supervised. Everything else stays." Dad scoffed. "You think you're powerful now, but one day you'll need us." I smiled. Not cruel, just factual. "No, I needed you when I was 9, when I was 14, when I was 18, when I was 22, when I begged for help and you laughed. That window closed years ago." Lindsay wiped her face. "You're doing this because of one stupid comment over a pot of soup." "No," I answered. "The ladle just made it obvious." Deputy Carson held open the door. They went inside quietly. No shouting now, no arrogance, no entitlement, just smallness. 30 minutes later, they left with a single duffel each, the bare minimum the law allowed. Dad stopped in the driveway. "You'll regret this," he whispered. I locked the front door from the inside. "No," I whispered back through the glass. I finally stopped regretting myself. The next morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like nothing had happened, but everything had. For the first time in my own house, there was no tension in the air, just stillness, just mine. I made coffee slowly, grounding myself in the silence. Then a knock. Not pounding, not rage, a small, sharp tap. Through the glass of the front door, I saw Dad alone this time. He held a paper bag, the same bakery I used to beg him to stop at when I was a kid, the one he only ever stopped at when she wanted something. I opened the door halfway. He didn't step inside. He held the bag out awkwardly. "Your favorite cinnamon twist," he murmured. "It's still warm." It took everything in me not to laugh, because the gesture wasn't love. It was negotiation. "Lindsay needs a second chance," he whispered. "Your sister, she's been through a lot." There it was. The script. Protect the golden child. He waited for me to soften like all the other times. I didn't. "Do you know what I realized last night?" I said quietly. "The only time you come toward me is when you want something from me." He blinked. Maybe he knew. Maybe he always knew. "You can leave the bakery bag on the bench," I said. "But this conversation ends here." He swallowed hard. That hurt him more than slamming the door would have. He placed the bag down slowly like it was an offering. Then he stepped back and whispered, barely audible, "I don't know how to be your dad." "Fadi." I nodded once. "Then don't ask me to be your savings account." I closed the door. Soft final. And through the glass, he didn't move. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. By noon, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Not calls, bank notifications, attempted transfers, attempted logins, 3 declined card charges. They were testing every possible angle. Lindsay tried Apple Pay first, then Venmo, then she tried logging into my old joint savings account from 6 years ago, the one I forgot even existed. She must have had the password written down somewhere. She didn't realize I already froze everything last night. Then an email hit my inbox, forwarded through the mortgage portal. They submitted a request to access my home equity. That was the moment I actually sat down, heart steady, not scared, just stunned by how bottomless and their entitlement was. 5 minutes later, Ethan, my attorney, FaceTimed me. He didn't even say hello. He said one sentence. "Tell me their full legal names, every one of them." I listed them calmly. No shaking, no hesitation. Dad, Robert Hanford, Lindsay Hanford, Brian Hanford. Ethan typed while I spoke. "And the officer who responded yesterday?" "Deputy Carson." I answered. Ethan nodded once, tight, controlled. "Perfect. We'll attach his incident report." There was no emotion in his voice, just clean legal steel. He looked at me through the screen with a strange mix of pride and heartbreak. "Luna, this is gonna fast-track consequences they can't undo." I leaned back in my chair. "I know." I looked around. My own kitchen, warm light, clean counters, a space that didn't feel like a battlefield anymore, but like a home. And I said it out loud, finally hearing it. "I'm not punishing them. I'm removing access." Ethan exhaled. Relief and approval blended together. "Good," he replied. "Because the paperwork we're filing next is going to make yesterday look like a polite warning." The hearing was set for 9 a.m. I arrived at 8:42, calm, hair tied low, navy blazer, no theatrics. Lindsay, Dad, and Brian were already there, whisper fighting in the hallway like anxious teenagers caught cheating on an exam. They froze when they saw me. Lindsay's lip curled. "You're really doing this to your family?" I tilted my head. Not cruel, just observant. "You did that part yourselves." Inside, the administrative judge flipped through the case file. Thick now, screenshots, statements, bank logs, Call logs. Deputy Carson's report. It was all so ordinary on paper. No screaming, no melodrama, just actions. And then consequences. The judge looked at Lindsay. Attempted unauthorized withdrawals are a serious matter. You accessed accounts that were not legally yours. You attempted to open credit under her name. That is fraud. Lindsay swallowed so hard her shoulders jerked. Dad tried to jump in. We're family. This is a misunderstanding. She's overreacting. The judge raised a hand. Sir, family relationships are irrelevant to financial crime. That single sentence felt like 10 years of therapy, landing in one moment. After rulings, restraining boundaries, and signed papers, we walked out into the hallway. Brian actually reached out to touch my arm, voice shaking. Luna, we didn't think you would go this far. I didn't pull away. I simply said, you should have understood the first time I said no. And then I walked toward the exit. The glass doors reflected sunlight, my own face, unafraid. Outside, Ethan leaned against his car, sunglasses hooked on his shirt, holding 2 coffees. I'm guessing it's done, and he asked. I nodded. It's done. We sat in the car for a moment, engine quiet. Ethan reached over and tapped the folder in my lap, the signed final orders. This isn't revenge, he said softly. This is self-ownership. For the first time in my life, I believed him completely. I texted my niece, Lindsay's daughter, one sentence. You will never inherit what hurt me. You, if this lit the ember in your chest, smash. Subscribe. Ring that bell. Drop. Where's you watching from? Below. Share with anyone still stuck in the family trap. They need to know the quiet ones don't stay quiet forever. Comment your I locked the door moment. New fire. Every 24 hours. Stay locked.